Georgia goes to Tennessee, a matchup that has been very favorable for them in recent years. It's not been kind to Tennessee and Josh Heupel at all. But they're looking to pull off a huge win week 3. Can you switch the? I can't see the spread.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
No, you're chill.
Spread is
Georgia's
3.5.
favored by 3.5 on the road. They've been off to a bit of a slow start, in my opinion. They've won big, but it's been weaker competition. I would have liked to see a little more. Tennessee looked great last week, also against very weak competition. So it's just hard to know what to really expect in this matchup, as this is their first true test for both teams. Early thoughts about this one, guys?
I think that the Tennessee offense has looked fantastic, and Georgia has looked underwhelming. The guy on TikTok who sometimes like bad takes like live in my head when people call us out because the other like someone calls us out and they were so right. He was like they're returning or he was like Georgia's run game was bad last year, and they're starting a bunch of new pieces at O-line. Why do you expect it to be better? And I was just like, because it's Georgia, and it hasn't particularly been like.
It's been better.
Yeah.
It's 100% been better. They're running for 214 a game.
Oh, never mind.
5 yards per carry,
Freak
7
me.
rushing touchdowns.
Freak me.
Gunnar Stockton has only thrown 2 touchdowns because they keep running it so well.
I'm just going to shut up.
So
I don't know what I was on.
I disagree. Offensively, the biggest complaint has been the play calling.
Yes.
But what's his name? Mike Bobo has been...
He's been hated on by Georgia fans for years.
It's been like with the Steelers, how they were with Matt Canada for the 1 year. Not so much like they're yelling "fire Bobo" chants in the crowd, but I guarantee you, like if you were sitting in that crowd, it is so many complaints about Mike Bobo. I would imagine it would feel like how it felt when I went to the state game at A&M and we were sitting with A&M fans, and the entire game they were making fun of Jimbo Fisher. Like I think that's how the Georgia fan base feels about Mike Bobo with the play calling, the lack of creativity, stuff like that. But offensively, their run game has been good this year. Now they've played Austin Peay and Marshall, who literally lost their entire team to Southern Miss. So that doesn't mean that they're great on the run, and they'll get their first big test here against Tennessee. Spread opened at 6.5. It's been bet all the way down to 3.5. It's, again, a popular theme this week. And I think a large part of this theme plays off of last week where we saw these big home wins for underdogs, specifically the Mississippi State Bulldogs is a part of that, and that's why you've seen the Clemson spread drop and the Georgia Tech spread drop. For me, the key to the game is like Georgia is not going to beat themselves, so Tennessee has to go out there and beat Georgia. Josh Heupel is 0-8 against Kirby Smart in Georgia. He's never beaten Kirby Smart. He's never beaten Georgia. Last year, it felt like they were favored in that game, if I recall, at Georgia. If not, it was like a 2-point spread. And then even 2 years prior to that, they were the number 1 team in the country going into Georgia, and they end up losing that game.
Yeah.
They're going to have to go out there and beat Georgia this weekend. I just don't see the Dogs beating themselves. Gunnar Stockton, what is the thing that he's praised the most for? Ball security, not putting the ball in harm's way. That just feeds more into the Georgia's not going to beat themselves. So Tennessee's going to have to beat them to win this weekend.
Yeah, I see he has no sacks so far through 2 weeks.
Neither of the quarterbacks have been sacked, and if there's another key to the game right there is who can pressure the quarterback, who can put the opposing quarterback in 3rd and 13, 3rd and 17. Gunnar Stockton has been sacked. Joey Aguilar hasn't been sacked. And that's a huge key to the game because you think of Georgia defensive lines and you think of Tennessee recently with their defensive line has been pretty key. I mean, Tennessee themselves have 5 sacks through 2 games against Syracuse and Eastern Tennessee. Georgia isn't there really in the sack department, but for the most part, they just haven't played a lot of defensive snaps because they've been controlling the ball so well offensively and controlling the time of possession.
Also, when you play those weaker teams, they never sit back in the pocket for long at all because they know that their offensive line can't hold up.
Absolutely. For me, Georgia, their 3 to 4 back approach I think is going to be key. They have 4 backs that you're going to see all 4 of them. And Nate Frazier, who you're going to see a ton of. But Dwight Phillips, Chauncey Bowens, and then Cash Jones in the passing game, you're going to see all 4 of them. They're one of the keys to the game. I feel like Zachariah Branch, can you maybe hit him over the top for a big play? And on the Tennessee side, like, can Arion Carter tackle in the run game? Can Edwin Spillman and Joshua Josephs get to Gunnar Stockton? Can you keep contain on Gunnar Stockton and keep him from making big plays? And then their defensive backs and Boo Carter, they're going to be without Gerard McCoy still. He's still recovering from the ACL injury. He's going to be potentially a top 10 pick in this year's draft.
Yeah.
He won't play this week.
Ricky Gibson's also hurt as well, another key piece back there. So
Yeah, so Boo Carter and Jalen McMurray are going to be key in this game for the defensive backs against honestly, inarguably a better receiving group than they had last year.
It's one of the best they've had, other than Brock Bowers. I mean, it's one of the best wide receiver rooms they've had in several years.
Absolutely. So I think Tennessee defense, how do they hold up against that Georgia offense? I think it's a huge part of that game because defensively, if your defense is playing with their hair on fire in front of that crowd, I can tell you firsthand that feeds so much into how the offensive success plays out. Because if Rocky Top is playing a ton because you're getting a huge stop on third down, that place is going to be jumping, and I think that's going to help them a ton and give that offense, which is still kind of working on it, have a ton of confidence. This is Aguilar's second game at Rocky Top, but it's his first SEC game at Rocky Top, and I think that's one of your huge storylines right there. He dealt with bad throws, but also they were dropping the ball a ton. Week 1 against Syracuse, they cleaned that up against Eastern Tennessee, but it's also an FCS school, so they were open a ton last week, just like wide open. So it's hard to miss those and drop those. But if the defense is playing well, I think Tennessee's got a chance in this game. I just don't know if I expect them to. Because, like I said, I think the offense is playing well for Georgia.
Yeah, the defense has to be great, to be honest, because we've seen a sample size of doesn't matter how explosive the Josh Heupel offense is at Tennessee that year. Georgia is just going to play man in the secondary a ton, let their athletes go to work, and shut down the explosive passing attack of Tennessee. I mean, I know that like Tennessee's offense wasn't great last year, but even previous years, Hendon Hooker, guys like that, Georgia has just kind of been the thorn in Heupel's side in that regard. So there's no reason, in my opinion, to expect a high offensive output from Tennessee, barring a ton of mistakes, which Georgia doesn't typically make mistakes like that. They're one of the most well-coached teams, most disciplined teams year in and year out. So the defense for Tennessee, I agree, is going to have to play great for there to be a chance in this one. Any thoughts, Sanders, before we pick this game?
I'm interested to see. It's like the matchup of the Tennessee elite offense and the Georgia elite defense, and then that Tennessee defense has been really good the past couple of years, and so I'm curious to see what they look like. A lot of new faces, unproven faces, losing James Pierce from last year, and then you've got guys who are out with injury. What does that look like against the SEC offense? It's not a high-powered SEC offense. It's not a Alabama that we saw last year or an Ole Miss that we saw last year. But what does that look like? It's going to be a tough matchup. 3.5 for Georgia in Knoxville. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to lean Georgia.
I'm going to go Georgia as well. There's just so many trends in data to I'm just going to trust them to do what they've done to this Tennessee team year in and year out.
And Sven makes a great point about Tennessee's last touchdown against Georgia was 2022.
That's crazy.
If that's true. He just put that in the comments.
I don't think that's true.
That would be crazy if so.
Let me go double check it. Did they really get shut out for 2023, 2024? I'll check.
I'm pretty sure they scored a touchdown at Georgia last year. I'm pretty sure they were up 10-0.
Could have been a defensive touchdown or a special team.
If that's what he's saying, then maybe.
I don't know, though.
I'm going to go
I
check
can't
because
confirm.
now I'm curious.
Okay, cool. I don't feel as confident in this Georgia team in this matchup as years past, but I'm still just going to trust what I've seen year in and year out. So I'm going to take Georgia to cover 3.5.
Yeah, if I was forced to bet this game, I'd take Georgia to win and cover. But if I think just looking at this weekend, something has to happen that's kind of unexpected. And someone has to win as, I think, an underdog and have a big upset. I don't expect it to happen from this next matchup we're about to talk about for sure. I think there's a decent chance for the last matchup, but I have some concern with the Aggies. I'm going to say that this is the one where the upset happens. That's picking against my Georgia Bulldogs, who I have winning the SEC. Not that they're my Bulldogs. They're just my team to win
They're
the
your
SEC.
pick this year.
I hate
I
this
get what
team.
you mean.
But for our spread picks, I'm picking Georgia to win and cover.
Okay.
I just think this is the best chance because I'm going to pick all of the favorites to cover, by the way. This is the best chance for an upset to happen is Tennessee. I think the home crowd plays so much of a factor in it. For me, honestly, like the biggest thing is defense hair on fire, and then just the crowd and the confidence oozing into the offense and allowing them to play freely helps them a ton. And I think that's the key to the game is how much of a crowd they have playing a factor, helping that offense and that confidence against the Georgia defense. But give me Georgia to win and cover.
The miscommunication with Sven makes sense now. It's the last passing touchdown was 2022. They had a rushing touchdown in 2023. The first play from scrimmage, one play, 75 yards, touchdown. Go up 7-0 and score one field goal throughout the rest of the game. And then last year they lost 31-17, so they had 2 more touchdowns. So
the sentiment is there.
Yes, last passing touchdown. And that makes sense given that last year Tennessee's offensive identity was run game. So it makes sense that they would have 2 rushing touchdowns and not a passing touchdown. We've all got Georgia?
We all have Georgia covering, so we can move on.
Cool.